Hey folks, got sidetracked by a bigger project, so today we're going to talk about a smaller game I played recently and enjoyed. Prison of Husks is an indie Souls-like downstream of FromSoft's earlier titles. It's got a charming PSX art style and some moderately interesting combat additions. The game isn't out, but there is a small demo to run through. You wake up in a prison cell and are handed a key to escape. You're in a mysterious, forgotten prison somewhere in the misty mountain range far from civilization. Everybody here, including us, is a slim, thick doll lady, a puppet piloted around by a human soul. The place is in ruins, masonry crumbling. The imprisoned wallow in unending agony, and the mad once-jailers roam the halls eager for a fight.
Something very familiar about all this.
Minus the caked-up mannequins, of course. The structure of progression is immediately recognizable, too. Kill some dudes, steal their junk, open shortcuts to circle back. There's a couple NPCs to interact with, 2 bosses, and a couple of secrets. On my first run, I beat the demo in around 20 minutes. On the second go-around, I was a little more thorough and spent just under an hour with the game. The combat feels fairly good. Light attacks and charge attacks, time dodging, a stamina meter, all that jazz. My initial impression was that it was a bit clunky, but as I got more attuned to it, things got smoother. I was probably just coming back down to earth after playing a bunch of buttery smooth Elden Ring Night Raid. The combat here is much slower and deliberate. You can only really swing your starter broadsword 2 or 3 times before you're out of stamina. The other 2 weapons in the demo, you can really only swing once if you want to leave stamina for a dodge. This is offset by the fact that perfect blocks regen stamina, but I'm not a parry king, so I didn't get much use out of the system. Interestingly, that effect is given to you via a ring that you start with. There isn't a replacement for it in the demo, but I'd gladly take a different effect in that slot that was more tuned for my playstyle. The first major difference you might notice is that big old 3 on top of my health down there. You can take a couple hits before damage starts going to your actual health. Most attacks take away 1 ablative HP, but there was at least 1 enemy with an attack that ate up 2. If you do enough damage without being hit, you can fill up this box and get your armor back. This mechanic really clicked for me when I started treating it like energy shields from the Green Man game. You can afford to be a bit more aggressive when you got your shield up, but once it's down, it's time to play more conservatively. It even regens outside of combat, too. Another system that reinforces this aggressive playstyle is adrenaline. Each time you dodge, land an attack, or successfully block/parry, you build up your adrenaline meter. The more adrenaline you have, the more damage you deal and take. I think you even get a bit of lifesteal, too. Usually in FromSoft games, if you screw up enough times in a boss fight, you're put in a scenario where your health is near 0, you have no flasks, and you really end up on the back foot. There are rare special occasions where I've clutched out bosses in that state, but most times it's generally more efficient to just die and start from scratch. With both of these new features combined, Prison of Husks can sometimes feel like this awesome dance where you're on the edge of dying constantly. But a couple of dodges and a few more attacks can see you with your adrenaline bar full and your ablative HP back. It's not just an easy safety net. It's more like skilled play being rewarded with more time on target. It gives you another opportunity to stay in the fight, even if you're out of flasks. I think this was super cool. A minor system that goes understated in the demo is the ability to combine items in your inventory like in Resident Evil. That's a fun wrinkle that I don't think I've seen done in this way in a Souls-like. Sure, Elden Ring has crafting in it, but it's used in a slightly different gameplay context. It usually amounted to farming for a bit to stock up on the crafting items you needed and then calling it a day. Here, I can give up a healing item to make a buff for my weapon. The game is essentially asking me if I'd like the buffer of extra heals, or if I'd like to grab some extra damage instead. I can see some fun applications of that kind of direct consequence, survival horror-based system where you have to make educated decisions based on how skillful or prepared you want to be as a player. I do have a couple of gripes with the combat, but one has as much to do with the graphics as it does the actual gameplay, so let's touch on that first. The visuals are pretty strong. It's similar enough to older FromSoft games, but it almost gives me the vibe of a demake. Something from a console generation prior, which I know is the intent of the art style. I have so much respect for developers who chase a specific tone or style. It lets me know you care more about art than you do achieving 64 terashits per megafart or whatever. The low poly aesthetic lends itself really well to this grimy, foreboding atmosphere, and lowering the graphical fidelity taps into the uncanny valley part of my brain much better than photorealism. Like, take this little moment for example. You stumble into this dilapidated church hall. There's cages and inanimate dolls, and there's a single enemy in the room. It's a little foreboding. You get stuck in combat, and the doll you're fighting drives their own sword into their chests and lights themselves on fire. After a couple seconds, the enemy is charred to a crisp. When they die, they drop their burnt ribbon. Now, I'm an adult, it's not scary per se, but it is lent a bit more creepiness by the virtue of the low poly visual presentation. It really reminded me of watching old Tool music videos in 240p on YouTube as a kid. That sense of, what am I even looking at here? I respect certain songwriters' ability to convey a large concept or story with as few lyrics as possible. Brevity is the soul of wit, and I think my enjoyment of the simple visual metaphors or stripped-back graphics is a facet of that same respect. Does that make sense? Does this track at all? One of my only complaints would probably be that everything is too close color tone-wise. There's a lot of brown, gray, white, and black in here. Now, this could just be a demo-only problem. I can see this getting resolved by entering a different zone with a different vibe. The Steam page does show other areas that are bathed in blue or overgrown and have a lot of lush foliage. That looks great. I'd love to see this strong art direction in a couple different color palettes. Take it as far as it'll go, man. Now, this does directly tie into my major gripe with the gameplay. The dithering. I understand that it comes with the territory, and it's sort of par for the course, but it makes my eyeballs water a bit. I've heard that some people can't play VR games for too long for the same reason, so I might be one of those and consequently in the minority here. Plus, it really hurts this genre of game in one department specifically. Visual clarity. Boy oh boy, do I have a great example for you. Minor spoiler for the demo, but in one of the cells near the start, there's a flailing faceless doll. Using a key you get off of another enemy, you can enter the room and kill them. When they die, they drop a bunch of flowers. And the item description says that they yearn for the skies. So you trek your way up to the roof where a secret boss now appears, the Stray Pigment. You may already see the problem here. Don't get me wrong, everything about the design is good. The way it's just an outline form that you can't really fully make out, the weird wireframe appendages, the way it just appears from thin air, the lore tidbit about that doll below yearning for this thing, so much so that it was holding its head and rolling around. It's cool. But after half an hour of fighting it, I did walk away with a slight pain in my temples. The smoke, the little dots that shift position, fuck, I didn't even consciously notice it while I was playing, but the way the skybox is adjusting when I move around probably did not help. Not only is this hard on the eyes, but it also occasionally makes it hard to tell what move the boss is going to throw my way next. Is this even dithering? Is it Z-fighting? I'm not even sure that I'm talking about the right thing here. I think it was said in one of the Halo Vidocs, but there's that old video game balancing story where a playtester was complaining about the damage of a gun, and the solution that worked was simply changing the sound effect of the weapon to be a bit beefier. There might be a silly little solution to the problem that I'm talking about that I'm not even aware of. I am playing this on a 2K monitor. Maybe I'd be having less issues if it were being displayed on a smaller, display. Again, I refer back to my VR headset point, but this is still giving me some eye strain. Loosening up on one or two of these pieces of visual clutter might help. Hey, I went to see if anyone else made a video on the game, and of course the man himself, Iron Pineapple, had already covered this demo. I checked out the portion of his video on Prison of Husks, and I noticed that there were more graphics options in that version. Check out those toggleable checkboxes, man. Can I have that back, please? My head hurts. Regardless, I actually really like this boss from a game design standpoint. It doesn't let up. The pressure it put on me made me understand the little nuances of this combat system better. I died a good handful of times, and it was super exciting when I finally won. Plus, this thing carries a version of the Moonlight Greatsword, which is frankly one of my favorite weapons in all of fiction. My beloved. The demo comes to a close after you get a key off of this NPC and fight the mandatory boss on the bottom floor of the asylum. Champion. It's fairly simple compared to the Stray Pigment. Beat up that dummy, get the lever for the front gate, and you've arrived at the end of the content for Prison of Husks that's currently available. Before the final closing notes and a summary of the story details I could glean from the demo on the Steam page, I want to just say a quick thanks to my wonderful supporters on the Patreon. Thank you to Thomas Bomber, Empire Doom, Interesting Squirrel, Galbatrix, Original Peter, Trench Gun, Eggs and Toast, Jesse Watson, Victor Sales, Altharius Omegon, Teeth, Kaylee, Seamus Folan, Biosphere, Deeger, T-Dog America, Codeine Popper, Lawnmower, Gotcha Hell, Second Lieutenant Akizuki, Rail Foamer, Lewis, Silent Rainfall, Syndicated Man, Jono, Brickhead, Sydney, That Guy No One Knows, Saturday 7, and Sock. All in all, I actually really like this game. The combat is an interesting take on the classic formula. I haven't felt pressured in any Souls-like to keep up the aggression quite like I have in this one. The art style is cool and foreboding. In particular, I really like the Steam library splash art with those empty black eyes. Ugh. I can honestly say that the scraps of story I could pick up on intrigued me. Are these dolls being reanimated by the magic of the lady in the high tower? Endlessly dying in droves to free her? There's a few lines in there about the entire game taking place in the afterlife. The idea that heaven is abandoned is mildly off-putting, to say the least. Can't say I've encountered that one before. Hey, listen to this. As you search for your dear, you may assist others whose hearts ache and restore love. However, you will also face off against bosses whose desires for one another stand in your way. Yet another Souls-like where I'm not exactly sure I'm doing the right thing. Yes, give me more moral ambiguity. Come to think of it, the few mentions of pigment entering the id made me perk up a bit. Are we killing other husks and collecting their id? Like the part of their minds that govern impulsive behavior? The main FromSoft titles never really did much to sell the idea that you were absorbing the essence of the bosses you slay. You know, boss weapons are one thing, but tangible character changes based on who you killed could be a fun storytelling through gameplay mechanics kind of thing. Take the stray pigment, for instance. Maybe after we kill that thing, if we let our character stand still for a bit, they stare up at the sky all forlorn or something. Characterize a boss as being an inherent protector, have the player absorb its essence, and then force the character to step in front of an NPC who's in danger later on down the line. Throw in a few buffs or debuffs associated with each boss, and bada bing, bada boom, the storytelling sure is emerging through gameplay. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. You can play this demo right now by following the link in the description or tracking down the Steam page yourself. Be sure to check out the dev's Twitter and Discord to stay updated on the game. That's all for this one. Thanks for watching. More junk soon. Bye-bye.